So I'm going to drop the word about the turd, from the first to the third, and the bees and the bird, and how absurd for our sons and daughters that we keep on flushing our turds in their water. Don't you know that we really ought to stop? Take time to think that what we flush is what we drink, precious water down the sink. It's an inspiration for a conversation about a nation's sanitation, the land's dehydration, illness and constipation. Make mind for the creation of the ablution, a revolution where composting is a solution, answer and contribution. Back to simplicity, gravity, bringing dignity to the poo and the wee. 100,000, 1 million, 2.6 billion lack access to success. We all gotta confess, we treat our farms as mines and all pay the fines. NPK is lost. It's time to compost our shit to soil, our soil to wealth, communities to health. No need for stealth, for it all starts in the mind, and the science will bind that the psychology of humanity, treating the word shit as profanity, does not help the sanitary growth and understanding. For when I say the word shit, do not recoil from it, not one little bit, for the seat where we sit, for nature's call, it affects us all. And I stand here tall and say, 1 cup, cover up. It makes me laugh. Who really shits in the bath? It's a toilet. It's a loo. It's guna, shizer and crap. I'm MC Feces, and that's my C-rap. For far too long, poo has been a dirty word, and I'm here to give its good name back. After all, it's only called human waste if we waste it. Think about that. It's only called human waste if we waste it. We are part of an ecosystem. We are not away from it, we are part of it. So the language of calling something waste means you must dispose of it. The time is here to forget about that. Now, you must ask, how on earth do I start my journey of being so passionate about poo? Well, I'm actually far more interested in the people who do it and where it goes than I am about the actual turd, but that's okay. So I started my own festival with a group of friends in 1996 on my parents' beautiful farm, Bilyana. The festival was called Folk Rhythm and Life. At the same time, I was studying environmental chemistry at RMIT. These two things together meant that I had consideration to have the highest environmental standard that I could for a festival. It's actually quite de rigueur these days for a festival to consider itself a leader of a community. Back in the day, it was pure hedonism. However, that was far from satisfactory experience for me to even begin. So we started. After a few years, we developed our own composting toilet system. I had some battles with the bureaucracy, I paid some fines, but I also knew that I couldn't wait for the laws to change and that I had to lead them. I took our toilet system, I started my own company, and I called that company Natural Event. And our slogan is changing the world from the bottom up. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. So we took our toilets to the Falls Festival, Meredith, up to the Laura Dance Festival, from Tassie to Cooktown. One time I did 7,000-kilometre trip, 8 gigs in 6 weeks, all because I wanted to showcase the fact that the way that you deal with the turd could change. What could change? First of all, people would enjoy it. Now I want you to hear some audience participation time. For anybody who's ever used a public toilet at a festival, I want you to shut your eyes. Now think of that portaloo. Now breathe in. We don't need slides for that. So what I did was design a toilet system that, it looked cool. Why? Because from 30 metres you feel respected. You feel as though I've done something that I don't need to do. The other senses that matter, as we've just heard, are smell. Very important when you're talking about having a shit. You'll be happy enough with your smell, but you don't want to know what Barry did. It's pretty simple. Composting toilets mean you add a cup of sawdust on top. Now, as well as the way that they look, the way that they smell, it's also important to have some tunes while you shit. We call that Poo FM, the sanitation station. Pick your favourite dumping track and away you go, spinning some discs. So I took this to Europe after a struggle here in Australia, going up and down and getting people to accept that there was a better solution than the Portaloos. I knew that I had something to do. In fact, I had a distinct future memory that we would be taking our toilet system to the top of the world's festival tree. That was in 2008. I flew here, and I'm very pleased to be here in this beautiful building, and I'm flying away again tomorrow, straight back to London, because this year we are doing 1,111 composting toilets at Glastonbury Music Festival. We have a great team. We have a great team. And may I just say, that is a world record in the history of shitting. And that history is a long one, let me tell you. Some stats for the turd nerds out there. We're going to have 350 tonnes of crap. We're going to use 3,900 kilometres of toilet paper. We're going to do 200,000 people for 5 days. Some of you may ask, who gives a shit? Or you might ask, what do you do with the shit? I'll tell you that first. We compost it. And as you can see here, this thermometer, that's about 75 degrees. At 70 degrees, you need 1 hour. At 60 degrees, you need 2 days. And it curves out at 4 degrees. And 4 degrees is the temperature of your fridge. So if you were to put a turd in a fridge, you'd need 256 days. Don't ask me around for dinner. Now, what do you do with it? Well, we apply it on that huge scale. We apply it to farms and broad acreage. On a smaller scale, as you can see, and there's my beautiful partner, Francis, on a small scale, you can grow food from it. And I'm very serious to say that the world needs to consider that we need to grow more food from our own shit. We really do. And the thing that has stopped us in the past is fear. And what is fear? It's the unknown. And I can tell you known facts. Composting shit kills the pathogens that would actually make us ill if you were to, in fact, have a turd burger. So we can tell you that growing food from shit is more than reasonable. It's actually essential, and it's something that we really need to consider doing. Now, what's the relevance of all this? Okay, so here's a picture of the hedonistic campsite left, and I can tell you that I got pretty bored with 350 festivals around the world seeing this every day. In 2010, just after the Haiti earthquake, I was invited to go to Haiti through the wonderful power of Facebook by Patricia Arquette. Found me on Facebook the first time she rang me up. We talked for 4 hours about shit, and I thought, let's do this. She flew me the next week to Haiti. It was a devastating thing. And then the one thing I can tell you is the link between a campsite at a music festival and a campsite in a disaster zone is that people are living in tents in a field without access to a flushing toilet. The relevance stops there. Hedonism versus survivalists. Some people want to be in that refugee camp because they've escaped somewhere, and some people are forced to be in that campsite. But the one thing that links us all, no matter what colour your skin, no matter what language you speak, or what country you come from, we are all connected by our asses, and we all seek dignity when we're having a shit. It's true. Think about it. A lot of you don't want to admit it, but you love having a shit as long as you can have it your way. Now, this brings us back to the city. Can we find relevance for composting toilet in a city? Most certainly we can. How do you do it? You can do it on a small scale. Do it yourself. Anyone who's got a backyard can do it. In Richmond in Victoria, we have an outhouse. In that outhouse, I put in a 20-litre bucket. I shit in that bucket, and I cover it up with sawdust. And then I tip that bucket into a composting scenario in my backyard, and then when it's finished, I put it in my garden and grow tomatoes. You do not need to ask anyone if that's okay. You don't have to ask your council. They will never send over the poo police at 7:30 in the morning and check what you're doing. It's just not going to happen. By understanding how to manage shit on, some might say, a pretty big scale, I've also learnt that it could be applied to cities, particularly new developments where there's no houses yet, particularly Indigenous communities around the world where they do not have power or electricity, or if that power or electricity may be threatened to be cut off by a government. There's much more I could say. In fact, if I continued any more, you might suggest I had verbal diarrhea. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you're having a shit, think of me.